The psychology of human behavior is simple, but the wounds behind it are not. Most people walk through life asleep, unaware of their motives, their fears, and the shadows that control them. And when a good soul appears, someone self-aware, open, and honest, it exposes everything they've been hiding from themselves. This is the self-awareness awakening they never asked for, the mirror they never wanted to look into. Toxic patterns don't come from bad hearts. They come from unhealed shadows, the unconscious pain Carl Jung warned us about. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So why do people mistreat good souls? Because kindness triggers their insecurity. Because honesty threatens their illusions. Because your light reveals their darkness. And instead of growing, they attack the mirror. This video will reveal those hidden patterns and protect your heart from the ones who haven't met their own. So listen closely, because this isn't just a story. This is a truth you've felt in your bones, a truth you've tried to outrun, but it keeps finding you. Why did they treat you so badly when all you ever offered was gentleness? Why did the people you cared for most become the ones who wounded you deepest? Why does love sometimes invite the very pain you were trying to escape? These questions linger in quiet rooms. They echo in the heart long after the moment has passed, and they force you to confront something uncomfortable, something you sense intuitively, but were never allowed to say out loud. People don't hurt you because you're weak. They hurt you because your presence reveals something in them that they don't want to face. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And sometimes, you become the mirror they can no longer avoid. Your love exposes their fear. Your sincerity exposes their deceit. Your emotional clarity exposes their internal chaos. Your compassion exposes the wounds they've buried for years. To someone who's unhealed, your presence is not comforting. It's threatening. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you represented everything they aren't ready to step into. So they react. They push away. They criticize. They sabotage. They betray. Not because you deserve the pain, but because they didn't know what to do with your light. Some people are nourished by kindness. Others are terrified by it. Why? Because kindness requires authenticity, and authenticity threatens the masks people worked years to build. To love someone deeply is to see them. But not everyone wants to be seen. Not everyone is ready to be known. So they choose the familiar. Control. Distance. Games. Defensiveness. Coldness. They choose the patterns that protect their ego, but poison their relationships. And here's the part you rarely admit to yourself. You didn't love wrong. You loved fully. But you loved people who weren't ready for full love. There is a difference. You showed them softness, and it exposed their hardness. You showed them patience, and it revealed their impulsiveness. You showed them loyalty, and it made their inconsistency impossible to ignore. People often reject what they cannot reciprocate. They push away what feels overwhelming. They mistreat what feels too good to be true. Not because you were too much, but because they were too little for the version of themselves your love demanded they become. Nietzsche once wrote, "And those who were seen dancing were thought insane by those who could not hear the music." Your love had a rhythm they couldn't follow, a depth they couldn't match, a sincerity they couldn't mirror. So instead of rising, they resisted. Instead of healing, they projected. Instead of learning, they attacked. And maybe, just maybe, you misunderstood their behavior. You mistook their fear for indifference, their avoidance for strength, their coldness for clarity. But no, look closer. People don't mistreat you because they're strong. They mistreat you because they're afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of vulnerability. Afraid of being truly known. Afraid of becoming dependent on the very love they've trained themselves to distrust. So they punish the person who made them feel something real, you. But listen, this is not where your story ends. This is where your understanding begins. Let's go deeper, because pain, real pain, is never caused by the surface behavior. It's caused by what that behavior means when it lands inside your heart. You didn't just suffer because they ignored you. You suffered because you thought your love wasn't enough. You didn't just suffer because they disrespected you. You suffered because you believed something was wrong with you. You didn't just suffer because they walked away. You suffered because it made you question your worth, your intuition, your emotional generosity. But here's the truth you were never taught. Their behavior was not a reflection of your value. It was a reflection of their capacity. And capacity is everything. Some people have the emotional maturity of a storm, unpredictable, chaotic, easily triggered. Some people have the emotional capacity of a cracked cup. No matter how much love you pour in, it leaks out through old wounds. They refuse to heal. Some have the capacity of a locked door. No one gets in. Not even the people who come with good intentions. And some have the capacity of a prison. Not just for themselves, but for anyone who tries to love them. So what did you do? You tried harder. You held on. You explained yourself. You softened your tone. You forgave too quickly. You tolerated too much. All because your heart was sincere. But sincerity doesn't transform someone who's committed to avoidance. Love doesn't save someone who's addicted to their wounds. Compassion doesn't reach someone who fears vulnerability more than loneliness. You weren't failing. You were trying to love someone who wasn't available for the kind of love you carry. Take a breath. You must understand something essential. If you want to reclaim your emotional power, the way people treat you is not always about you, but the way you respond is. This is where your self-mastery begins. Not in changing others, not in begging for clarity, not in proving your worth, but in recognizing the dynamics at play and choosing yourself with maturity, with calm, with quiet authority. This is where the shift happens. They mistreated you because mistreatment is familiar to them, because chaos feels safer than intimacy, because control feels safer than connection, because to them, love is not nourishment. Love is exposure, and exposure is terrifying. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So ask yourself, why did you stay as long as you did? What part of you believed you had to earn love? What wound inside you made their behavior feel normal? What old pattern whispered, maybe if I just give a little more? These are hard questions, but they're necessary, because this isn't just a story about why they treated you badly. It's also a story about why you kept accepting it. And that's where your power returns. That's where your awakening begins. That's where the old version of you starts to fall away. Now breathe, because we're stepping into the part most people never talk about. The part where your heart becomes the real subject. Where the focus shifts from their wounds to the secret patterns inside you that kept pulling you toward them. See, you didn't love blindly. You loved instinctively, intuitively. You recognized something in them. A softness under the armor. A light buried under trauma. A truth they were afraid to live. You sensed their potential, and you tried to love them into it. But hear me carefully. Potential is not a promise. You can drown your entire soul trying to rescue someone who refuses to leave their own darkness. This is why emotional mastery matters. This is why self-awareness is power. Because people treat you according to their level of consciousness. But you accept treatment according to your level of healing.
Let that sink in.
Why did you keep giving chances? Why did you ignore the tension in your chest? Why did you silence your intuition when it whispered, "This doesn't feel right"? Because a part of you still believed that love is something you prove, not something you receive. A part of you still thought that being mistreated was a test you had to pass to finally be valued. A part of you still confused intensity with intimacy, chaos with passion, unpredictability with depth. Not because you're naive, but because your nervous system learned very early that inconsistency is normal. That effort equals acceptance. That love must be earned. So when someone mistreated you, your mind said leave, but your heart said maybe this time. And your wound said stay. You know this place. This is called trauma familiarity. We return to what we recognize. We attach to what mirrors our old experiences. We confuse comfort with chemistry and repetition with destiny. But you're waking up now. You're seeing the pattern from above, not from within. And with awareness comes the most powerful shift of all. You stop taking their behavior personally, because now you understand. Their coldness wasn't about you. Their distance wasn't about you. Their anger wasn't about you. Their betrayal wasn't about you. It was about their shadows, their fear, their internal battles, their need for control, their unresolved wounds. You were simply the closest mirror, and mirrors get blamed for what they reveal. Carl Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is that moment for you. The moment you stop calling their mistreatment fate, and start calling it a lesson. Not a punishment, not a failure, a lesson in boundaries, a lesson in self-respect, a lesson in emotional clarity, a lesson in choosing people who are capable, not just available. You're not bitter. You're not broken. You're becoming aware, and awareness changes everything. So here you are now, standing on the other side of everything you survived. Wiser, clearer, more awake than you've ever been. And this is the truth you needed to hear. They didn't treat you badly because you were unworthy. They treated you badly because they were unready. Unready to love. Unready to be honest. Unready to be seen. Unready to face the parts of themselves. Your presence illuminated too brightly. Your love wasn't the problem. Your love was simply too true for someone still hiding behind their wounds. And now you know something essential. Something that will protect your heart for years to come. When someone mistreats you, it says nothing about your value, but everything about their capacity. You no longer need to over-explain, over-give, over-forgive, or shrink yourself to be tolerated. You've learned the difference between being patient and being drained, between being compassionate and being controlled, between being loving and being used. This pain changed you, but not in the way you feared. It didn't harden you. It sharpened you. It didn't close your heart. It clarified it. It didn't make you afraid of love. It made you aware of who deserves it. And maybe the most powerful shift of all is this quiet realization. You finally understand that your love is a gift, and not everyone knows how to hold it. So you choose differently now, not out of fear, but out of self-respect, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, not out of ego, but out of emotional maturity. The old you would have chased, begged, explained, waited. The awakened you simply says, I understand, and I release you. You no longer seek love that drains you. You seek love that meets you, with depth, with care, with consistency, with truth. A new chapter begins here. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got wiser. And before you go, before you step fully into this new version of yourself, make sure you subscribe. Because your healing journey doesn't end here. Your awakening doesn't end here. There are deeper truths to uncover, stronger boundaries to build, greater versions of yourself waiting to emerge. If this touched your heart, if this made you pause, if this helped you breathe a little deeper, subscribe for more. Your transformation has only just begun.